are available. You can access them by clicking the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Premier.
Thank you for joining us today for an update on the province's wildlife situation. Merci beaucoup tout le monde de vous être joints à nous autres aujourd'hui pour une mise à jour sur la situation de feux de forêt dans notre province. We currently have a total of 16 fires that are active, 6 new fires since yesterday. Thankfully, new fires are being addressed and put out very quickly by the local firefighting teams, the incredible people on the ground. On a 16 feux à ce moment, 6 qui sont nouveaux depuis hier. Mais heureusement, les nouveaux incendies sont rapidement maîtrisés et éteints par nos équipes incroyables de pompiers et d'autres sur le terrain. What we have at the moment really is a tale of 2 fires. We are seeing promising results from the hard work of the firefighting teams on the fire in Irishtown. And while we have put dozens of people and air resources and others on the Miramichi fire, it continues to grow. Bien nous voyons des résultats encourageants grâce au travail des pompiers, au soutien apporté pour l'incendie près d'Irishtown. On est optimiste avec caution de qu'est-ce qui se passe là. Le feu à Miramichi, on a mis plusieurs ressources de personnel. Ça continue de prendre de l'ampleur. These conditions are being made worse by the extremely hot weather that we've been experiencing, and that's impacting a number of New Brunswickers. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to let people know that our Emergency Measures Organization has 15 comfort centers in operation around the province, a space for cooling and other services. So you can check the social media pages of the NBEMO and the Government of New Brunswick for those locations. Les conditions de feux de forêt sont aggravées par les températures extrêmement chaudes dans notre province. Et ça fait des pressions pour nos plus vulnérables, pour plusieurs Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises. Alors, je veux partager que le OMUNB dispose de 15 centres de rafraîchissement de toute la province. Vous pouvez consulter les réseaux sociaux de l'OMUNB et du gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick pour connaître leur emplacement. I want to acknowledge, we can't say this enough, the hard work of the first responders who are working tirelessly to take care of New Brunswickers in extreme conditions. These folks are coming out and working as much as humanly possible on these fires, and that includes the folks in our emergency response offices, in the Forest Prevention Center, municipal teams on the ground, some of whom are volunteers. Je vais commencer par saluer tous les premiers intervenants qui travaillent sans relâche pour prendre soin des Néo-Brunswickois. Il y a tellement de monde qui travaille à chaque heure. Ils ne veulent même pas prendre des breaks, même si on leur demande, ils ont besoin de prendre des breaks pour leur santé, mais il y a plusieurs personnes qui travaillent jour et nuit pour assurer la sécurité de notre province et de la Néo-Brunswickoise. Des personnels dans nos centres de mesures d'urgence, le centre de feux de forêt, les personnes sur le terrain, les employés des municipalités, des bénévoles, tout le monde travaille sans relâche pour nous aider. But the bottom line is we continue to see fires, backyard fires, campfires, and we continue to see 2 out-of-control fires in this province. So we need to continue to ask people to stay off Crown lands, to stay out of the woods, to make sure that we are doing everything, clearing the way so that our resources can go where they are needed. On reçoit de l'aide. This is one of the silver linings in this, is East Coasters come out in times of need to help their neighbors. We're seeing that across provincial lines. It's very heartening that we have firefighters coming up to support us from Nova Scotia, from PEI, even from our neighboring state of Maine. Les gens de la côte Est serrent le coude en temps de difficulté et de crise pour aider leurs voisins. Et on voit cet esprit de solidarité entre les provinces. Nous sommes vraiment reconnaissants d'avoir de l'aide, même des États américains comme le Maine, les pompiers qui viennent de Nouvelle-Écosse, de l'île du Prince-Édouard. On partage pour tous nous protéger. We sent 2 New Brunswick planes to help out in Nova Scotia yesterday. Those have now come back. We have Nova Scotians helping us out here on the ground. And at the end of the day, people matter most, and we will put our collective resources where they need to be to protect people and their homes. Nous avons envoyé 2 avions hier pour aider en Nouvelle-Écosse, qui sont maintenant de retour. Ils nous ont rendu une vingtaine de personnes sur le terrain. Toutes les maritimes, on partage parce qu'au fin du jour, c'est les personnes qui sont les priorités. C'est votre vie et vos maisons. Alors, on travaille ensemble comme une région pour assurer la sécurité de tout le monde. We're also seeing lots of offers of help from the business community, from locals, from organizations like Ability New Brunswick, from everyday New Brunswickers. We're very grateful for all of the offers that we've received and the spirit of New Brunswickers who want to know what more they can do to help in a time like this. And so I think we get to see the best of people in this crisis, and New Brunswickers are showing that with the offers that they've put forward and the ways they're looking to help. On reçoit plusieurs offres d'aide du milieu des affaires, des collectivités, d'organismes comme la Capacité Nouveau-Brunswick, de citoyens du Nouveau-Brunswick. Ça démontre l'esprit de Nouveau-Brunswick, notre identité comme des personnes qui sont des bons voisins et qui veulent aider leurs voisins dans la situation difficile. Alors, merci pour ça. I'm going to pass it over to Minister John Herron to provide you with more details on the fires happening today.
Thank you very much, Premier. Au début, je voudrais dire que la situation de nos forêts est encore sérieuse. La planche de nos forêts est vraiment sec. On doit continuer les précautions, les mesures qu'on a mises en œuvre pour protéger nos familles et nos communautés. I have some prepared comments with respect to an update from a DNR perspective. But I would like to underscore 4 specific points that I'd like New Brunswickers to understand. This is a very serious moment, and I think New Brunswickers need to be immensely heartened by the dedication, the passion, the courage of the men and women at DNR. Certainly, the full machinery of government is seized with this moment, and my colleague Minister Govan will speak to that. But I want to just celebrate and acknowledge the immense effort that the men and women at DNR have done on the front lines, fighting fires in an incredibly arduous environment. And just imagine what that heat is. It's tough just to walk out these doors. And they're doing on the front line of a serious fire that the team is working, people say literally night and day. They are actually working night and day right now from a logistical perspective to ensure that we have assets at the ready. And a tip of the hat of the pilots who are flying an enormous amount of sorties to be there early and often. And it's absolutely inspiring what I've had the privilege to see every day in terms of what the team at DNR are doing. The second point that I'd like to raise is what has been raised by the Premier. I suspect Minister Govan will raise it again. is the easiest fire for us to be able to extinguish, is the one that we don't start in our backyards. It is making our fire center nervous that backyard fires still are continuing. But I will say this, it's a rare exception. I think New Brunswickers get it. Most folks are absolutely understand that it's hot at night. You don't need that extra warmth out there. So in those rare exceptions where folks are being reckless, stop that. Just stop it. Is that we need to make sure we get through these next couple of weeks and keep our families and keep our communities safe. I want to speak to a little bit on being proactive, and I'll be able to touch on that with respect to our update. So, as the Premier touched upon, there are currently 16 fires in the province, up from 6 yesterday. But I'll also point out is that there's only 2 fires of note which remain out of control, not more. That is because we're being proactive. We've set up methodologies to ensure that we're there early and often in a matter of minutes to ensure that we snuff out these fires at their source. There are 2 of those fires are considered out of control, that being the Oldfield Road near the Miramichi and the Irishtown fire. The Oldfield fire has burned more than 1,300 hectares. The Irishtown fire is approximately 45 hectares, and residents have been told to prepare to evacuate. Le feu d'Irishtown s'étend sur environ de 45 hectares et on a demandé aux résidents de se préparer à évacuer. However, we are at this moment cautiously optimistic that this fire has not grown. We have a perimeter of water and retardant around the Irishtown fire. We're close there. We're very optimistic, but the efforts of the men and women around that fire. Tip of the hat of one of the leads, Danny Goddard, who really led the tactics in order for us to get to where we are. To support our ability to do early intervention, you may notice that there is a helicopter, or 2, on the lawn of the Hugh John Fleming Center. They are not lawn ornaments. They're there for a reason. Is that we have firefighters based out of the Hugh John Fleming Center. They are there as essentially an attack unit, and those helicopters are just that as well. Those helicopters may bring those firefighters to an early spark. And that helicopter may bring water with them or not at that point. So it's those kind of tactics, being proactive, being on our front foot, that's going to enable us to mitigate having future fire situations. I think, Premier, those are all the updates that I have. I think you've touched on some of them already, so I'll pass the mic over to Minister Gauvin.
Thank you, Mr. Herron. First, I want to start by echoing the sentiments of the Premier. Right now, you're seeing the best of New Brunswick at work. Those men and women in the air, on the ground, in the dispatch centers, all over the province. You're seeing our best. And to respect their work, the best thing we can do is to realize that the wildfire situation in the province continues to pose a very real threat to people and their properties. Je vais aussi le répéter en français. Tout de suite, ce qui est inspirant pour nous, qui sommes un peu l'extension de leur travail, les gens qui sont sur le terrain, dans les airs ou dans les bureaux ici, on est en train de voir le meilleur du Nouveau-Brunswick à l'œuvre. avec leur courage. Et pour respecter ce courage-là, je vous dirais que la meilleure chose qu'on peut faire, c'est de réaliser que la menace des feux dans la province, ça continue d'être vrai. Les terrains sont vraiment secs et il faut faire attention. Weather conditions are still very dry and will continue to be for the next few days. We would like also to thank the municipalities for their ongoing efforts and for setting comfort centers and planning of potential evacuees. Nous tenons également à remercier les habitants du Nouveau-Brunswick pour continuer à faire leur part. Veuillez, s'il vous plaît, continuer de prendre des décisions judicieuses, rester à l'écart des bois et des zones touchées par les incendies. Please continue to be very careful in your daily activities. Given the dry climate, it will not take much to accidentally start a new fire. Our priority continues to be the safety and keeping residents and first responders out of danger. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about our vulnerable population. Dans ces conditions, il est vraiment important de vérifier avec vos amis et les membres de votre famille, de vos voisins et les autres membres de votre communauté qui pourraient avoir besoin d'aide pour évacuer. Si vous connaissez quelqu'un qui a des problèmes de mobilité, qui ne suit pas les nouvelles ou qui n'a pas d'accès aux médias sociaux ou qui vit seul, tout simplement, s'il vous plaît, prenez contact avec eux. Help them make plans and offer help in any way you can if they need in case of emergency. Another thing to consider is the increased risk of heat stress and heat stroke during high heat alerts. People living alone without air conditioning are at high risk, especially when a heat wave lasts for many days, like the case right now. Vérifiez régulièrement pour vous assurer que ces personnes-là ne sont pas en danger, s'il vous plaît. Vous devez également avoir une trousse d'urgence. Encore une fois, si vous n'en avez pas, préparez-en une dès maintenant. Your kit should include all of the things that you might need for at least 3 days if you are asked to evacuate. This includes medications, a portable radio with batteries, clothing, food, pet and their supplies, important documents such as passports, birth certificates, legal documents like wills, deeds, and powers of attorney. Il serait aussi une bonne idée de prendre des photos de vos documents importants, les passeports, certificats de naissance et des documents juridiques, ainsi que des vidéos et des photos du contenu de votre maison en cas de besoin. And I want to say again, if there is an evacuation issued, you will get an alert-ready message on your phones, on your TVs, on your radio. So I would like to ask people to be aware of that because our goal is to try to reach you. There are also help on the ground, but we just want to remind people that to keep a heads up for that. Je vais aussi le répéter en français. Si jamais on vous demande d'évacuer, il va y avoir des alertes qui vont apparaître, qui vont faire du bruit sur vos téléphones, sur vos télévisions, sur vos radios, sur vos portables, etc. Donc, on vous demande de rester vigilant. Aussi, dans les zones qui pourraient être concernées, on a aussi des gens qui sont sur le terrain. Mais la vigilance des gens en question est vraiment importante. Where to go to get information updates? New Brunswickers can continue to get information through trusted sources like NBEMO and GNB social media channels. The Firewatch webpage at gnb.ca/firewatch. Donc, on demande aux gens de continuer, s'il vous plaît, de prendre ça au sérieux parce que c'est encore sec partout dans la province du Nouveau-Brunswick. Ça ne prend rien pour partir un feu. Restez alerte. Vérifiez sur vos besoins, la population vulnérable et continuons de supporter les gens qui travaillent à éteindre ces feux. Et la meilleure manière de les supporter, c'est de ne pas avoir d'activité humaine dans les forêts. The best way to support the people that are working right now, because you have to realize, my colleague, Minister Herron, touched on that. Ces gens-là travaillent tout près des feux qui ont des températures dans les 4 chiffres. So to support them, all we ask you to do, no human activity in the woods, please. C'est tout pour moi. That's it for me. Thank you very much, Premier.
Merci, ministre Gauvin. Je veux juste prendre la dernière file de qu'est-ce qu'il dit. Ça me fait chaud au cœur, le montant de Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises qui nous demandent qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour aider. We're certainly hearing and receiving lots of offers of help, so thank you to everyone who's reached out, either with equipment or otherwise. The team is sorting through those hundreds of offers and working to take them up wherever we can. But many of you are asking, what can I do to help? And there is much you can do. So many of you are also reaching out to report a fire, to let us know where you've seen smoke or fires, and that's extremely helpful because the team has been responding immediately to those. That also further reinforces why we're asking people not to have backyard fires or otherwise, because those also get reported into us and get followed up on from the team. So keep doing what you're doing. Reach out to your neighbors. One new thing, other than, don't have backyard campfires and don't get the drones in the air, please stay away from active fire sites. A new piece of advice is to conserve water. We are seeing significantly dry conditions. We know people have wells that they're worried about. There are communities, there's streams and riverbeds that do not have the kind of water that we're used to here in New Brunswick. So it would be helpful if all New Brunswickers take steps to conserve water. And maybe choose recreational activities that are new. It's a good time to go for a swim, maybe to try pickleball. Who knows? But we know that campfires are summer tradition. The risk is high, and we're asking you not to do that right now. Alors, je vais répéter. On apprécie énormément toutes les offres d'aide. Le département reçoit vos offres d'équipement et d'autres choses, puis il essaie de toutes les gérer aussi vite que possible. Pour les personnes qui nous demandent qu'est-ce que je peux faire, comment est-ce que je peux aider, continuez de faire les appels que vous faites quand vous voyez un feu pour nous laisser savoir, parce que le département a démontré qu'ils vont réagir vraiment vite. On va éviter d'avoir de nouveaux feux de forêt sans contrôle. Mais il nous laisse savoir aussi quand il y a des feux de forêt, pas des feux de forêt, mais des feux personnels. Et on vous demande d'attendre quelques jours, quelques semaines avant d'avoir ces feux de forêt. On vous demande de l'économiser d'eau. On se trouve que c'est vraiment sèche maintenant. Il y a les ruisseaux qui sont secs. C'est une bonne temps d'économiser de l'eau. Évitez les zones d'incendie, ne mettez pas vos drones proches des feux et choisissez des activités récréatives sécuritaires, peut-être comme la baignade ou quelque chose d'autre. Thank you. Thank you. New Brunswickers have shown us that they are looking after their neighbors, that they care, that they are undertaking safe activities. They're doing everything they can to help our first responders, to help their neighbors, to help our entire province minimize the damage of this wildfire season. Merci énormément pour ce que vous faites. On voit avec les données que vous faites les bonnes choses pour minimiser les risques. Et moi, je veux vous remercier du fond de mon cœur. Et avec ça, on va prendre vos questions. We'll take your questions.
We will now proceed with questions from members of the media. Each reporter will get one question and one follow-up. You have the right to pose your question in the official language of your choice. If your question is for a specific person, please identify them when posing your question. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Chaque journaliste aura droit à une question puis une suivie. Vous avez le droit de poser votre question dans la langue officielle de votre choix. Si votre question s'adresse à une personne spécifique, veuillez l'identifier lorsque vous posez votre question. We'll start with John Chilibeck, Post Media.
You mentioned that there are some people out there still making backyard fires or ignoring some of the rules. So have fines been issued, and can you detail that? And should fines be increased, if at all?
I think, as I said yesterday, there have been a few fines for people breaking the fire bans. We're pleased to see that those aren't big numbers, and actually they're They're smaller today than yesterday, and the numbers are so small that we're encouraged that New Brunswickers are doing the right thing. This isn't about being punitive. New Brunswickers are stepping up and making clear choices in the interest of their neighbors and families, and so we just, those backyard fires, those aren't something where a ranger's coming in to fine that person for doing that in their backyard, but it's making their neighbors nervous, and it's making calls get logged into the center. And so we just want to keep asking people to please consider that that's something that they could put off for the next week or two while we focus all of our energy and our resources and our call centers and others on the immediate threat to New Brunswickers' lives and livelihoods.
The blueberry industry right now, they can't really operate because much of them use Crown land or they have to cross Crown road. So I'm wondering what can be done for them. The industry seems to think that something similar to Nova Scotia could be put in place. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. We're in contact with the folks in the blueberry industry. We understand that it is an absolutely vital sector in the province. We understand that this is harvest time. Obviously, no one wants them to lose the opportunity to have that harvest. We're exploring if options that may provide an opportunity under a set of very arduous conditions. Obviously, that would mean an abundance of water that would follow any kind of harvest permission, should that be granted. Doing things that vehicles could only be parked on dirt road. Those are some of the type of provisions that I understand are being undertaken in the province of Nova Scotia. But we're going to do right for what's best for New Brunswick in that regard. So I can just confirm where we're having those discussions. But if a variance does occur, it will be under very, very strict conditions. And I just want to just state the obvious. We're asking New Brunswickers to stay out of the forest, to stay out of situations that could put our communities and our families at risk, to mitigate the potential for accidental fire incidents. So when we're asked to look at situations that may have such variances, they're going to be very, very, very heavily considered, and they'd be only put in place under very strict conditions.
If I could just add to what Minister Herron has said, the economic situation is serious. We know that our blueberry producers, our forestry operators, and others, a good example would be the peat operators as well, are all being impacted by both this wildfire situation as well as tariffs and others that have made this a really economically challenging time for our farmers and our forestry workers. And I've been hearing from employees in this space that have gone now, 5 days without work when they would love to be in the fields or in the woods. They're worried about their livelihood. They're worried about their economic safety. And so we are really trying to find a balanced approach that protects people and workers, that protects our assets and our economy, that protects our environment and our lives. And the minister and the team are working really closely with folks on the ground to get that balance right of maximum safety while with minimum economic impact.
If I may, Premier, just to add that. So if we're, I think it's always good to foreshadow so no one's surprised if they see an activity that may emerge. So we are concerned that by the fact that we've heard from a number of forestry companies that have mills where they're on the verge of running out of wood supply to be able to operate those mills. So similarly, as we may do with respect to the blueberry sector, that there is a fair amount of wood that's already been harvested that are on logging roads. We don't want machines going in there with chainsaws and creating sparks into the woods. That's where we're stopping doing that function. But under provisions that have been done in the past and other situations when the forests have been dry, is that we may grant under certain conditions the ability to be able to collect wood that is on the side of the road that's already in place. They would have to have infrastructure with them, meaning water, on both sides of a potential truck that would be collecting wood. There'd be other precautions in place here, but I guess the point that I'm trying to flag is that there may be some variances in this, but they're going to be very few, and they're going to be heavily considered. But I wanted to flag those two, so New Brunswickers understand that those operators are doing it under the auspices and the permits that have been granted by the government of New Brunswick.
Margot Castada, Radio-Canada. Margot Castada, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Ma première question est concernant le feu de Miramichi. Il y a plusieurs personnes, notamment dans du coin de La Villette et Négoa, qui se demandent s'ils doivent se préparer à évacuer pour le feu d'Irishtown. Il y a eu des avis d'évacuation assez rapidement, mais pas pour Miramichi. Est-ce à comprendre qu'il n'y a aucune habitation qui n'est menacée pour le moment?
Oui, Margot, c'est correct. La communauté de La Villette et de Négoac, il n'y a pas d'avis d'évacuation à ce moment parce que ce n'est pas à le niveau où on a besoin de le faire. Mais exactement comme Irishtown, quand c'est le cas, ils vont voir cet avis de se préparer pour si c'est le cas. Et après cet avis, si c'est rendu au point, comme le ministre a dit, vont avoir des alertes spécifiques. Alors, le monde de Négoac puis La Villette, c'est dans ce coin-là, peut rester à ce moment qu'il n'y a pas d'avis d'évacuation. Je ne sais pas si tu veux ajouter.
Non, mais vous avez dit l'essentiel. Nous, on a des experts sur le terrain, c'est eux qui donnent les ordres. Et nous, on attend, comme la première ministre a dit. Puis si jamais le cas arrive, les gens seront avertis sur leur portable, sur leur ordinateur, télévision, radio. C'est sûr.
On communique avec le maire d'Alnwick.
Oui, on communique avec les gens, avec notre député.
Communauté.
Oui.
Parfait. Deuxième question. Autre sujet concerne les débits d'eau, les cours d'eau, la sécheresse. À quel point, ça peut être pour le ministre Herron, à quel point la situation est critique concernant le niveau des cours d'eau au Nouveau-Brunswick?
Vraiment, je peux dire que il est une question, pour le moment, c'est maintenant, on doit prendre les mesures de diminuer nos consommation d'eau, mais à ce moment aussi, on a de l'eau suffisante pour les opérations, pour les hommes et les femmes qui battent les feux à ce moment. Mais ça, c'est la raison pour laquelle on a dit ça. On doit protéger la capacité pour nos départements d'avoir de l'eau suffisante.
Oui, Margot, j'ajouterais que c'est pourquoi on parle de ça. C'est un niveau concernant à ce moment et c'est pourquoi on demande du monde d'économiser, conserver de l'eau. et si ça devient de plus en plus sérieux, le niveau de demande de la communauté va augmenter.
Juste ajouter à ce que la première ministre et le ministre Aaron ont dit, lorsque j'ai parlé d'entrée de jeu, je disais, pour aider à respecter le travail, c'est un effort collectif ici de toute la population de Nouveau-Brunswick. Pas besoin de vous apprendre quelque chose, c'est une sécheresse historique. Donc, c'est certain que les niveaux d'eau sont bas. Et là, on a besoin de l'eau pour combattre ces feux-là. Donc, on demande à la population de prendre conscience de ça et de participer dans l'effort collectif. Donc, c'est tout simplement ça que je voulais rajouter. Merci.
Savannah Ott, CBC.
Merci beaucoup.
Hi. Minister Heron had previously said that you had requested 60 firefighters from other jurisdictions. I know that the 30 have been secured. I'm wondering what's happening with the remaining request, and do we expect that to materialize?
So the country, but clearly the region, seem to be all challenged with respect to needing requiring added resources. So we still have that request in. I think it's quite possible, even quite probable, that those additional firefighters may become available. But we're essentially almost sharing resources even around the region. I should also add is that we do still have a request in for 2 CF415s. Those are the larger super scoopers, water bombers. So we're engaging with SIFSI, which is the organization that helps share resources across the country. But in that type of request, that I mentioned that we had 2 attack helicopters that are going to be based out of the Hugh John Fleming Center itself. But we have confirmed that we have 2 additional new helicopters coming on top of those. Those helicopters actually have a larger capacity to actually carry water. So we're having an iterative conversation with the folks at SIFSI, but the nation's resources are going to where they're required the most, and we have to be cognizant of that. We know that there's a set of float planes that are water bombers that are en route to Newfoundland. They've got a tough situation there as well. So we're all trying to help each other. So we're grateful to be having the 2 additional helicopters that are en route. We're grateful to have the attack unit of 20 persons coming from Nova Scotia. We're also pleased to be able to help our neighbors by dispatching the CF415s that we've got responsibility for that are based out of Baie-Comeau that made an early attack on the fire in Halifax that really tamped that down very, very quickly. So we're all trying to figure this out together. We haven't lost a structure in New Brunswick yet. And despite, even with that Oldfield fire, that we've been able to steer that, and even the camps, we've saved them so far. But it's, that if we can get in front of that fire in Oldfield, we could be out of the woods. But that one we don't have a handle on just yet. But we have been successful at steering the trajectory of that fire.
And my second question is about that fire. Miramichi's fire department called it not even close to being controlled, in fact, beyond control, and it's growing. I'm wondering what it's going to take to bring that under control, and do we have the resources to do that at this point? So
the descriptor of it being beyond control, I think I've used those very words myself. It's a massive challenge for us. The best we can do at the moment is be able to steer the trajectory of that fire. And I guess an illustration of the fact that we've been successful at doing that. We've been able to save all structures so far. But what is it going to take? The moisture level in the woods needs to change. So we are going to be seeing some rain over the next 24, 36 hours. That's going to be immensely helpful. So I'm going to give you a directional guide in terms of what rain actually means. And this is only directional, but if we receive 5 millimeters of rain, that kind of buys you a day. That if you get 10 millimeters of rain, you kind of get 2. If you get 50 millimeters of rain, you're kind of getting it back in the game. So what's it going to take? It's going to require that help from the skies, and then us being as proactive as we have been at stopping new fires, that when we have that window of opportunity, when things get dampened, we need to go at it. And hopefully we'll have some success. But the fire department in Miramichi who used that descriptor, that wasn't hyperbole. It's a challenge. We're not the only jurisdiction in the country that has a fire of this nature. This is spirit, but the fact that we've been able to react, and we only have 1 in 3 quarters that are out of control. The folks at DNR are doing their best.
Nick Moore, CTV.
Thank you. Of the 6 new fires today, the 16 total fires, is there any indication about what is starting these fires, or how important is it that determining the cause of these fires? How important is that right now?
Determining the cause of the fires is something that you do after you've put the fire out. And so the priority is to get on them quickly and to make sure they don't become the kind of fires that consume resources and put lives at risk. And thankfully, the team has done an incredible job, thanks to New Brunswickers as well, for getting to those fires quickly, being aware that they exist, and getting them put out so that folks who are reading that dashboard or that PDF every 15 minutes are seeing that the fire appears, and then it's patrolled, and then it's out within a matter of time, and then we can reallocate the resources back to where they're needed. So, and then the work of figuring out what caused it and why, that happens after the fact.
And today we heard, or in the last 24 hours, you heard a pointed message from Newfoundland and Labrador, in addition to telling people to stay out of the woods or telling people to curb their use of all-terrain vehicles, ATVs. Is there any messaging from New Brunswick on that end?
Well, that's been the case from the beginning, right? It's the reason why we shut down forestry operations that meant heavy equipment when we're closing Crown lands to ATVs and recreational equipment, and all activity is exactly that. Whether it's your side-by-side or your four-wheeler, those hot exhaust engine pipes can be a challenge. They can cause sparks and other things, and so we really don't want people on Crown lands right now, so that we can focus our attention where it's most needed.
And to add to that, it's another opportunity to us to be able to thank New Brunswickers for being responsible. That the leaders of the ATV Association, they get it too. They've told their members to go find something else to do. So for the most part, we're getting it right here in New Brunswick.
And I would like to add to what Minister Herron said we're speaking days, at most weeks. We're not speaking about years. So this is why I know this is an intense effort, but that's why we need everybody's cooperation. And so far, New Brunswickers have been excellent. Thank you.
Hina Alam, the Canadian Press.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, Premier. I was wondering about these 2 out-of-control fires. If you could describe the kind of vegetation that is in the area, and how much of that is causing these fires to grow. Is it invasive species? Is it native species? Can you just describe that a little bit, please?
Ooh, Hina, I wish I could to get to the level of invasive or native species, but the forestry expertise lies to my right here in Minister Herron's department. I don't know whether he has the specifics of what's growing on the ground, other than to say that New Brunswick, as we know, is a heavily wooded province, and those woods and our incredible hardwoods and softwoods are part of what makes our province special. It's part of the economic fabric of this province, and actually in this case, place, the fact that we have great swaths of unoccupied woodland is helping us right now. It's why Minister Herron has been able to say that not a structure or a person has been impacted by a 1,300 hectare fire outside of Little Bartybogue. So if you want more detail on the species, I'm going to have to that's out of my pay grade. So we'll go to Minister. Do you have those details, or should we get them for Hina after the fact?
We can get them more after the fact, but in general, I can confirm that it's a traditional New Brunswick forest. New Brunswick is, fun fact, 86% of the province is forested. But those are traditional softwood, hardwood stands that have caught fire. I do want to point out this, though, is that although we've been heartened that we saved structures, and that's absolutely important, and we protected communities and families, there's a huge loss here, is that's part of the forest inventory. There's an economic cost to forest fires, so we all have to be cognizant of the fact that being responsible and presenting forest fires helps our economy as well. So obviously we're focused on people, but the economic side of the equation is indeed problematic, and I absolutely believe that New Brunswickers will meet this moment and stay out of the woods, take the precautions that are necessary for us to be able to mitigate other fire incidents. It's not a guarantee. Just because you stay out of the woods, there won't be any more fires. But it sure as heck helps.
That would be really helpful. If you could also let me know if any of these were attacked by pests, and that has made the trees more brittle, that'll definitely help. And my follow-up question was, what is the budget for wildfires or climate-related emergencies, and how much of that has been spent so far this year? Because I don't suppose these wildfires are normal in this part of Canada.
I'll take one part of that question. From a pest perspective, is that our pesticide regime that we have on spruce budworm has been immensely successful in this province. That if you actually if you go to the borders of our neighbors, is that you can see where when trees die, they become drier and more vulnerable. So that part of our forestry program does mitigate the capacity for our forest to die and become drier. I would say for the most part in the Oldfield fire region that spruce budworm isn't as prominent of a concern as you might see in the northwest of the province.
And Hina, we can get back to you on the financial piece in terms of the budget and what's spent to date. As you can imagine, there's some spending happening right now that we're accounting for on a live basis. And I think it might actually be helpful after the fact. There's some really important things that were done before this time that have made our ability to tackle these fires stronger. So kudos to previous governments and who invested in an expansion of the fleet at FPL, that it invested in more preventative mechanisms for the team at the Forest Fire Center with some of those shelter protection assets that were new online this year, with some of the work that folks have been doing in forest management to ensure that those preventative measures have been coming in place. So we could do a whole sort of session right now. I know what people want to know is, do I need to evacuate, and am I at risk, and are things getting worse or better? But there's some things we've been learning about our abilities to fight this fire thanks to decisions previously made that have set us up better today than we were 3 years ago.
Natalie Sturgeon, CHCO TV, The Courier.
Thanks for taking my questions. I just want to preface by saying I understand that the focus right now is on getting these fires out, but I'm wondering specifically if you have an understanding of what started the Miramichi and Irishtown fires?
So I've asked that question. Obviously, it was, everyone would be curious to that, but the fire center is that it may sound like the political response answer that it's still under investigation, but the fact is that we don't have a conclusive conclusion in terms of what were the causes in both of those cases at this moment. But of course, the government of Brunswick will share that information once it becomes available. But that's sort of yesterday's story at this point. We're focused right now on making sure that we don't have more of them.
And I can add that at this time, the important effort is to keep the focus on fighting those fires. And that's what we're doing right now. And there'll be time after to try to find out what happened. But right now, we want to tell all the people in New Brunswick, the effort right now must be on keeping the fires under wraps and making sure that we do the best we can to save lives here. So there'll be time after to look at that. Thank you.
And I was just wondering, I spoke with a forestry and environmental management professor who talked about diversity in the forest and how softwoods are a little bit more vulnerable than hardwoods. And I wondered if after this process and after we kind of come out of this phase of wildfires, whether or not the government will be taking a look specifically at its forestry practices to make New Brunswick forests more resilient against wildfires.
It's work that we actually do every day, Natalie. I will say forest fires or not, we are constantly evaluating our forest fire practices. The minister can expand. The mix of hardwood and softwood is constantly under evaluation, and practices are constantly adopting new technology and new learnings. John, I'm sure you can expand too.
Sure. So under previous governments, this issue has the department had wrestled with is that ultimately on how we manage our forests on today's basis is that where you have softwood stands, we want to have softwood stands. Where you have hardwood stands, we want to be able to do that. If you have in areas that are mixed forest, we want to predominantly do that as well. So that is the methodology in terms of what the department wants to do, and the reason for that is that we have an immense demand for softwood lumber throughout the province. We've got very progressive, well-invested softwood mills, whether that be from Plaster Rocks and Bell Dunes and Dogtown and Chipmans, but hardwood is absolutely vital to the New Brunswick economy as well. When you look at the activities such as companies at A.V. Nackwick or at Groupe Savoie, they count on having hardwood. So the answer in terms of which wood is preferable, the answer is all of it. We need all of it.
We want the most sustainable, vibrant, healthy forests possible for a whole variety of applications for New Brunswickers, for our ecosystem, for our economy and beyond. So the department is constantly managing to maximize the contribution of our forests to our province and to our lives and to our wellness.
Jake Webb, Global News.
Hi there, thank you. I'm wondering how many of the 15 comfort centers are in or around the Irishtown area, and if I'm also wondering if there are any developments on potential housing impacts an evacuation order would cause for the community.
Right now, I know there's at least one in that area. There's some all over the province. They're around the places that there's fires, of course. And to damage, just to make sure I understood, damage to houses, was that a part of your question? So far, there's no, like my colleague said, there's no damage to houses. But also, if you want to know more, you can contact the municipalities around you. They will be able to tell you exactly where to go if you are concerned. But I can guarantee you that there's some all around, especially around the two fires. Thank you.
Mr. Govan, if I can add, is that Minister Govan and I both heard from the president of Mount Allison University. So if you want to look at a situation where New Brunswickers are stepping up, is that goodness, I hope we don't need this opportunity. But the president of Mount Allison University, Dr. Sutherland, reached out and said, listen, we want to play our part. We've got residences that are available. Should they be required that aren't required until August 25th? That was an unsolicited offer of help, and we receive these kind of things. I mean, like, this this is all hands on deck. Everybody wants to do right. So go Mounties.
And to add to that, and yes, Dr. Sutherland reached out to us. And to add to that, we are not worried about places, people, because we have so many people who are offering. When I was telling before the beginning of this, when we said we're seeing the best of New Brunswickers, we're not only talking on the field or in the air or in our offices. We are talking about people reaching out. And that's a very good example. And so that's why, to your question, we are not worried about places because New Brunswickers are willing to open their doors to help their neighbors. Thank you.
Jake, we can follow up with the full list of the locations of the 15 comfort centers afterward.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. For the follow-up, I've been hearing people in the community have been complaining about not receiving enough updates and information. Obviously, the situation is currently developing, but I'm wondering if you have a response to that.
I appreciate that sentiment very much because when you've been told to get ready for evacuation and you've packed your bags and stuff are sitting by the front door and then you're sitting by your radio or at your laptop and you're hitting refresh and you want new information every minute. So the team has been doing their best to provide good and clear communications as we get information from the ground, which you can appreciate as those folks are doing their job. Their first task is to put out the fire and then to tell us about the work that they're doing. Right now, the PDF, which I know is not everybody's favorite form of information, that updates about every 15 minutes, and you can check out the size of the fire that's measured there, the resources on it. We are updating our website a couple times a day right now, and the team is looking at increasing that frequency and increasing the specificity of the update so that there's news on Irishtown and news on Oldfield there clearly for residents to see, to be reassured that the evacuation order hasn't been issued, that the fire isn't growing, or what the status is. So yeah, we've been listening to those residents who tell us they want more information, more frequent information, and we're working as we work to get it into the hands of their mayors and community leaders and to get it onto the digital channels, that we're pushing it out with a frequency that meets New Brunswickers' need to know.
Teresa Blackburn, River Valley Sun.
Hi, we've had reports of logging trucks coming out of wood roads leading to private woodlots in parts of Victoria County. I'm just wondering why the province hasn't formally restricted activity on private woodlots yet.
Actually.
Yeah, I'll take that. If there are, so the precautions that we put in place, I believe last Thursday, was essentially to shut down all forestry operations on Crown land. That also extended, to be clear, to private land from a harvesting perspective. Is that in order to harvest, they need a permit from DNR. Those permits were suspended last Thursday. So we are urging woodlot owners and those on freehold land to respect that prohibition with respect to harvesting. If there is trucking on private land that is collecting wood that has already been harvested on their private land, and that is okay. It is much better, and we're going to be communicating such that would be done under the same precautions that have been put in place in past years, where those collections would have to take place at night, when the temperatures are lower, where there's more moisture in the air. So those precautions may occur. If you're speaking about that people are in the woods with chainsaws and the like and harvesters, that is not just frowned upon, that is not permitted.
Okay. I'll follow up on that later then. A fire broke out near Wasis last night. Oromocto and other departments tamped it down pretty quickly, but the trail system there is really well used. Some people are complaining that people are still using the trail after restrictions. I'm just wondering if the province has considered any signage being erected in the high traffic trail areas where people have been ignoring the restrictions and complaints have been coming into you guys.
We have heard that from those residents of the ATVs still going by and making residents really nervous, and can appreciate that. So those are conversations that we're having with the municipality in Oromocto about ways that we can work with them and work with the community to really to try to diminish the ATV activity. Exactly as you said, that's right where a fire started yesterday, and lots of gratitude to the Oromocto Fire Department for being right on top of it, and some support from our team. But yeah, that the need for signage and to make it more clear to folks is something that we're looking at, because we've heard from the people who are right around there and who are nervous with the level of ATV activity that's coming through on that trail.
Andrew Waugh, Post Media.
Hi, Premier. So, wanted to first get your reaction to this letter that you and Minister Herron recently received from the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, warning you that if you don't, loosen these rules, you may, quote, be brought to heel in court. What do you think of all that?
Thanks for the question, Andrew. New Brunswick has taken a really targeted, balanced approach to do what is needed and just what is needed in order to respond to this threat to our province, to people's lives and livelihood. And so we've done that under the advice of our of government and of government's lawyers, and under the authorities that we hold to do so on Crown land.
Okay. So my second question, I've been listening to all these answers about who can do what and who can't do what, trying to understand the difference between banning ATVs going on these trails and logging roads, but then allowing logging trucks to go on logging roads. Like, surely if an ATV represents a spark threat, then a logging truck represents a spark threat. Can somebody explain like the logic here, because I'm struggling with it?
Yeah, I'm sure the minister will jump in on this, but there is some logic. The consideration that we're making right now for exceptions to allow trucking to go and pick up wood on the side of the road comes with a whole bunch of conditions around having the water, having the permits, having the fire spotters, having other things, as you would have seen in previous years and in Nova Scotia. That means we've got mitigation strategies in place. Asking for those kinds of mitigation strategies for a recreational ATV activity, as opposed to for an activity that's employing New Brunswickers who are not in the woods right now and not working, are two different things. And so that's why the ban of all activity on Crown lands, and then the exceptional treatment with conditions and consideration for particular employment and economic activities are two distinct things.
Nothing to add. Exactly. That's it.
Jacques Poitras, CBC.
Hi, I hear what you're saying about no conclusive conclusions, as you put it, about the cause of the two big fires, but if you have any preliminary observations or awareness, if you could be a bit transparent about that, whether there was human activity, industrial activity, that might go a long way to addressing some of the rumors online, some of the conspiracy theories we hear about in our newsroom.
This is going to be a regular occurrence in these briefings. If I can have something that could have a preliminary finding or some kind of a guide, I'll commit to do that in the next time that we meet. If it's still not conclusive at that time, that still might be the answer. But if we have some preliminary findings, or I don't need the word assumptions, but because it has to be evidence based. But if we have something to share on that, I'll commit to do that next time we're together.
Secondly, heat records have been broken all week. Rainfall's below average. Climate scientists tell us this is not an outlier, but a sign of things to come. Can you just address what New Brunswickers should expect every summer going forward in this regard?
Maybe the holistic answer.
Well, yeah, I can do. I mean, obviously, our focus right now is on dealing with the case at hand, but we agree that this is something that we can expect to see more frequently in the future, and that's why, as I referenced, we were grateful for some of the investments that were made. After the Bocabec fires 3 years ago, we sort of improved our ability to address them, and there's lots of things we're learning in this response that we're going to be able to act on to be better prepared for future years, and hopefully lots of things New Brunswickers are learning as well about how we have to think about our own activities in terms of dry conditions, in terms of heat conditions, and this is something even our Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure is looking at, critical infrastructure in a changing climate, and what do we need to do when we build communities to make sure that they are resilient and sustainable, and that we're creating building the kind of province that that can live into the future under the conditions that are forecast to be warmer, drier, and have more of these things occurring.
And just maybe to add to that, I encourage everyone to go to our websites under FireSmart. There are some things that individual New Brunswickers can actually actions that they can take. Even a simple situations that we all like, having a bit of a canopy or trees sometimes around our own homes. If those trees are actually touching your house, that's not necessarily the best situation from a maintenance perspective. So there are things that individuals can do to help mitigate the risk, and that's what that part of that campaign and education is in place to actually address. There are some investments that the province needs to consider in a robust fashion. I wish I wasn't as prescient on that we have two fire bosses that have been put on order to actually augment the FPL fleet. These are water bombers that actually have float infrastructure associated with it that will enable them to actually scoop and reload in the same ways as the super scoopers have. We have takes 6 months to actually have for them to from an order to receive, in the at best case scenario, that the DNR, who is the lead of FPL, that we put in 2 orders in this spring, or for 2 this spring. There may be another conversation that we might want to have as well, and this I might want to suggest we might want to talk as a neighborhood in Atlantic Canada, is that the infrastructure that at FPL is I would say our neighbors in Maritime Canada say it's kind of handy that we have that infrastructure. Maybe there's more economic partnerships that might actually emerge from that, but that's done at a bigger table than the one I sit at. So we can, but those are conversations which we can have in the future.
I want to come back to a question from Global News, and it's a good chance also to tell the people in New Brunswick about the centers. There's an NEMO website, warming and charging centers, www.gnb.ca, and if you go to that site, that list is constantly updated. So I hope that helped your questions a little bit. Thank you.
Sarah Plowman, CTV National.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering if you could speak to the challenge that the heat, but also the humidity might be posing for the firefight, or maybe the humidity helps.
I'll touch on the firefight piece. These are really arduous conditions. We've had 3 of our best who have spent time in the hospital over the last 24, 36 hours from heat exhaustion. I'm pleased to say that everything's tracking in a good direction with them. It's tough work. So that's just a reminder for New Brunswickers, don't make it harder on them. So let's continue those precautions for the next couple of weeks until we get at it, until we get out of this situation and the heavens open up. It's tough work.
Well, and it's bad both ways, I'll say. I mean, with a low humidity, we have dry woods, and that's terrible for our fires. With a high humidex, that's extremely challenging conditions for our most vulnerable, for our most frail, and it also means that when you get out of the woods from fighting the fire, you're still in 40-something degree weather, and that's challenging for the people on the ground. So it's neither high humidex or low humidex is good for us right now. What we need is rain.
Yes, and the best conditions right now for us is nighttime because it gets colder and there's less wind. So that's why we need cooperation, like the Premier said, from the skies. So, yeah.
Sarah, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I guess I was hoping maybe someone could touch on sort of the conditions of how the heat, what role the heat or humidity also plays into the conditions of the actual fire area of the territory as well.
I guess I'll just offer a simplistic answer to that is what it does. It maintains a forest that is tinder dry and is able to ignite almost like at a drop of a hat or the earliest occasion. So what the heat does, it fuels the fuel.
Okay, that concludes our list of questions. I'll pass it back to the Premier for some closing comments.
Well, I want to thank all the members of the media for coming, for your excellent questions. I don't know how many we got to there. I think probably through a dozen or so different reporters with excellent questions. I want to thank you for helping us to spread the word to New Brunswickers so that they have the information that they need about the state of these fires, about the actions that they can take, whether that's conserving water, whether that's staying out of the woods and not having a backyard fire, not putting their drones in the air, not driving their ATVs on the trails through Armagh, maybe not doing their... C'est quoi le burn-out au Festival de Caracat? Les chutes de boucan. Il y a des choses qu'on leur demande de ne pas faire au moment et j'apprécie énormément tout le monde qui participe à cette conférence de presse, les Néo-Brunswickois, qui regardent et qui écoutent et qui partagent le message avec leurs voisins. As the minister said, we are really seeing New Brunswickers come together and do this as a collective activity. That's why I'm really glad. We're not in punitive measures. Rangers aren't out all over the place ticketing people because New Brunswickers are looking after our forests and looking after each other. And so I will say again, thank you to everyone involved in the response. Thank you to New Brunswickers who are keeping each other safe. Thanks to the media for the role that you're playing. Merci énormément à tout le monde qui travaille sur la première ligne, nos pompiers, nos travailleurs dans le département, les équipes du gouvernement, tout le monde dans les communautés, les municipalités d'autres qui met sur la priorité durant un temps de vacances et choisit d'être là et assurer que tout le monde est sécure. Merci à vous autres, aux médias, pour partager le message et tout le monde aide comme une équipe de Nouveau-Brunswick. Je me sens vraiment fière du fait qu'on ne doit pas être là, faire des amendes et des choses comme ça parce que les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises, ils participent dans la collectivité de la protection de nos forêts et de leurs voisins. Je suis vraiment fière. I'm really, really proud of the whole of the team New Brunswick that helping us ensure that this wildfire season, we have yet to have a loss of a life or a structure, and we all hope and are focused on making sure that continues to be the case for the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.